You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Good evening, everyone. This is Arthur Robinson Jr. I am the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com. Tonight, I have a wonderful person on the call, Nomi Prins. And for those that don't know Nomi, let me explain to you about this incredible woman. Nomi Prins is a journalist and senior fellow at Demos. Her latest book is called It Takes a Pillage Behind the Bonuses, Bailouts and Backroom Deals from Washington to Wall Street. She is the author of her other powerful book called Other People's Money, The Corporate Mugging of America. And she is the author of her other powerful book called Jack, How Conservatives Are Picking Your Pocket Whether You Voted for Them or Not. Before becoming a journalist, Nomi worked on Wall Street as managing director of Goldman Sachs and running the international analytics group at Bear Stearns in London. She has appeared on numerous TV internationally on BBC World, BBC, and Russian TV, and nationally on CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, and ABC. And that is an awesome resume. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the beautiful Nomi Prins to the call.
Thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Nomi, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the listeners worldwide about Goldman Sachs and your powerful book, Takes a Pillage Behind the Bonuses, Bailouts and Backroom Deals from Washington to Wall Street. I gladly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, what I would like to know, and can you educate my listeners in regards to who is Nomi Prins, how long you've been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise, and can you break down in layman's terms what is the mindset of Goldman Sachs?
Well, I have actually been a journalist for almost the last 9 years or so since I left Goldman. I had worked at Goldman for a couple of years. I'd come there from Bear Stearns, which you mentioned, which was used to be one of the bigger investment banks. It's gone bankrupt since. But I came over to Goldman from Bear Stearns in the role of a managing director, which is just a fancy term for somebody who manages a group there. And the group that I managed did a lot of sort of funky analytics and products and all the things that the rest of the world ultimately came to know as assets that were toxic. So, I mean, a lot of the things I worked on, unfortunately, were not, didn't work out so well in general over the years. And when I worked on them, they were assets that had bonds inside them, corporate bonds that basically raised debt and things for corporations. And then over the years, they became full with subprime loans and other types of things that were actually bad for individuals in the way in which Goldman and other companies were producing them and marketing them and using them to ultimately wreck the economy, which is what wound up happening as we've seen in the last couple of years, which is how I ultimately got to writing my book, my latest book, It Takes a Pillage, which talked about the bailouts and everything that went down between Washington and Wall Street over the years.
Now, my resources have told me that Goldman Sachs made more than $100 million in revenue trading. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's the thing, and one of the reasons I left the industry was because having attained a senior position, I realized that it wasn't an industry that felt good to me on a sort of moral level, on an ethical level, that a lot of what happens inside Goldman and other companies like Goldman that makes some individuals very, very wealthy really destabilizes the rest of the world. And if you don't balance that properly, you get economic crises like we've seen, and you get, this instability between Wall Street and Main Street. So for me, It was a real wake-up call, actually, back at 9/11. That's really when I decided to leave Wall Street, when there was so much chaos going on in New York City, and I was working at Goldman very close to where the Trade Center was, and it was just such a chaotic time where, I took stock of my own situation and decided to leave. And so now almost, when the economic crisis became apparent in the end of 2008, it was almost 7 years after I left, and things had gotten a lot worse in terms of how much money Goldman was making and how reckless the companies in general on Wall Street were with respect to the economy in which they operated. It's no secret that Wall Street is around to make money for itself, but there are ways that becomes so very, very dangerous and problematic for the rest of the world, for the rest of Main Street, for the rest of the citizens in the country and in the world, that I think things just got more and more out of hand over the years, particularly with the subprime market and other types of assets that just allowed Goldman to really profit far too much on what became the downfall of others. And then when they made mistakes and were faced with their own possible bankruptcy, unlike what individuals have to face if they have credit problems in their own lives, the government stepped in and gave Goldman billions of dollars to right themselves, to sort of step back up on their 2 feet, as it did the rest of the large banks on Wall Street, and left sort of the rest of the nation to struggle. So, I think that's a really dangerous imbalance that has only gotten worse. It's always been bad. It was bad when I worked at Goldman. It was bad when I worked on Wall Street, and it only got much, much worse in the decade that followed, and now we're all dealing with more of those consequences.
Now, you used to work for Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. Can you break down in layman's terms, is Wall Street agenda, would that be their number one goal, is to generate big profits from big businesses?
I think their number one goal is to make money for their senior management. And to the extent that money comes from deals with large corporations, with large businesses that are their clients, that's one way to make money. The other way to make money is trading in the markets, is creating products that look like they're more valuable than they actually might be, and selling them on. So there's lots of different ways that investment banks like Goldman make money, but the main drive, the main thing that people go in every day to do isn't to do the best for their clients. It's to do the best for themselves and the firm and their bonuses first, and their clients sort of come after that. Their clients are perhaps the means to get to that end, but it's not really the first thing that happens, unless, of course, there's a major problem with a client and there's potential to lose a lot of money or something like that. Then, of course, it becomes a priority. But other than that, it really, really, really is all about making money. The conversations are about which deals will make the most money. They're about not spending time on clients that are, wasting, say, what are considered to be precious hours at the firm, and just to focus on what is the most profitable in the fastest amount of time. And that's just an attitude that's kind of on steroids in a place like Goldman on Wall Street relative to any other types of corporations, where there has to be a bit more balance in terms of considering long-term clients and long-term goals versus short-term needs to hit earnings, to make profits, to create large bonuses, to stay sort of competitive as they see it in their environment, which means keeping people around with the most amount of money and so forth.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Now, profits go up because of the